Hi, guys, and welcome to this episode of the Seconds Count podcast. I'm joined with Rima, who is a Ukrainian military medic. Is American, so I'm going to pass it over to Rima now to introduce yourself. Off you go, Rima.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rima. I'm a combat medic here in Ukraine. I'm enlisted in the Foreign Legion. Before that, I was a TCCC instructor. I became certified, and all of my education was done in Ukraine, so I was not a medic before I came here. But I'm fully certified and fully qualified to do the job. So essentially, I started off getting my medic studies done over the span of about a year. I went into instructing because I'm a certified CLS instructor and also CMC and TCCC. Um, and then I enlisted into the military to work as a combat medic. So,
Perfect.
yeah.
So, what motivated you to do that role?
For the most part, so I started off as a volunteer, but I also knew that there was a shortage of medics. So after volunteering for about a year and a half, I decided to go into medic studies because I knew that this was something that I could do and another way that I could contribute that would be meaningful and helpful in the right way. And I, took it very seriously and worked pretty hard. You're always still learning. I think in medicine, it's like a misnomer. Like there's never enough education. You're constantly always learning. There's always another certificate or another course. So like I guess it's kind of like a lifelong education thing. But I put in the required amount of work and got my certifications and started working as a medic. So.
Perfect. So, how long is the training from civilian to where you are now?
Well, so medic training here is extremely abbreviated because there's not a lot of time. So essentially, it varies from course to course. Some are, a month, some are 3 weeks, some are 2 weeks. It just depends on the school and the course schedule, for us, because soldiers are only given a finite amount of time. We have done CLS in 5 days. We've done CMC in 9 days. Me and my co-instructors, like, we don't have a lot of time, and so like essentially it's up to the ability and availability of the time that you have in order to study for the certificates you get. So I started all the way at the bottom and went all the way to CMC. And that the reason why I say it took me a year is because while I had it done all in short amounts of time, I have repeated my courses several times because repetitions are so important, and also just adding other training. So I'm trained on several different machines, like from Thornhill and other ones that we need to learn how to use, different types of ventilators, that kind of thing. So like it's important to get different kinds of training. I have trauma training that I've gotten like from organizations like Force of Ukraine that are freaking incredible, that come in and bring in all their expertise and give us like more knowledge on how to do like damage control and other trauma related procedures, etc. and so forth. So like that's why I say it takes a year, but it's like many different courses at different periods of time.
Okay. So you mentioned a lot there about trauma training. What kind of trauma are you seeing over there in Ukraine at the moment?
So a lot of it now comes from shrapnel that's related to drones carrying explosives and also artillery. So most of the injuries that we see a lot of the time are catastrophic. Lot of soft tissue or amputations also because of the blast wave. You get more things like tension pneumo or blast lung, in addition to TBIs, a lot of severe TBIs, things like that. So we're seeing a wide range of combat related injuries, but most of them are due to explosions.
Okay. So, going off on trauma, what kind of trauma equipment are you carrying as a combat medic yourself? So, personal equipment.
So for me, as a CASEVAC, medevac, and stab point medic, everything we have on our ambulance is rigged for, obviously, for stabilization. In my med bag, there's everything that we would carry as combat medics. So I have, the ability to do blood transfusion. I have a field transfusion kit. I've got my varying different items like sutures, couple of, we have to have everything for the most important stuff is to stop the bleeding, to be honest. So we always have a shit ton of tourniquets, hemostatic gauze, compressed gauze, everything to stop the bleeding because that comes first. And then of course we carry the other things. So for airway, if we have to do a surgical airway, then we're carrying what we need to do to create a surgical airway. We have our NPAs, BVMs, that kind of, the range of everything that combat medics carry in like a small compressed little bag, that gets really heavy, by the way. Um,
Yeah.
and so like that's, I think it's really important because especially learning things like how to do blood transfusions and getting certified for that sort of thing, it's super important because blood forward is something that is still being pushed here. So we want to make sure that like everybody knows how to do, transfusions properly. And so like, we hand out, field kits when we can. When I get my hands on them, I make sure our medics and our infantry have them. Um, essentially like these are the tools of the trade. We have our, medicines that we need. We carry our, in our med packs, we've got pretty much like if we can, we shove in like a couple of things of fluids in there if we have it, that kind of stuff. Um, but for the most part, it's just like every tool you would see in terms of like what we use in combat medicine, all that. Most of it is all focused on stopping the bleed. So, yeah.
Mm. I'm finding it crazy. So before you did this, was you in medicine at all, or have
No,
you only started recently?
no.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Nope. And I mean, I'm not the only one. I guess like, we've have like a lot of, Ukrainians that learned medicine off of YouTube. I feel very fortunate that I was able to take courses and like official courses and get officially certified. Um, because a lot of Ukrainians that entered into the military didn't have that option, at least not in the beginning
Mm.
of the war. So it's becoming more of a thing now. And then one of the reasons why I also take education so seriously is because I know that we need to get everyone, my dream would be to get everybody at a CLS level. That would be awesome if we could do that. So like anybody that I encounter, but like I just got done with a training rotation where we helped train about 260 plus new recruits in at least ASM plus. We call it ASM plus because we teach them how to use everything in their IFAC, and ASM doesn't always do that. So we teach them how to use their NPA. Essentially, it's how to use a chest seal, how to use an NPA, how to give and how to put in an NPA, that kind of thing, and also recognition for shock management, or shock symptoms, excuse me. So that they're able to at least like tell their medic, hey, this guy's going into shock. The other thing that we were asked by commanders is to teach them how to do tourniquet replacement, because there is a big problem here with limb loss or unnecessary limb loss or not like,
Mm.
doing the tourniquet replacement because they don't know how. And so, like, there's an emphasis on that singular skill at the ASM level because we have so many needs for tourniquets on the front line and they're always being put on. And so, what they're looking for is because we have prolonged evacuations, like, we can't do immediate evacuation. The golden hour here is the golden 3 days. Um, it can be up to 3 days. I've had groups of soldiers come into our stab point that waited 1 week, 2 weeks. That's how bad the drones are. They're waiting for the evac vehicles pretty much in the grass. So they target our medevacs, they target our casevacs. So like we can't get them out right away, even if we wanted to. In my last deployment, the fastest evac I'd ever seen was 1 hour. And the guy was so badly injured that I think they made a concerted effort to get him out because I'd never seen any medevac that fast during that particular deployment. It either was 6 hours plus 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 24 hours. It varies completely. We never know like when we're going to get them. But this is why there's an emphasis on teaching that skill at least to the infantry, because then at least they can relocate the new tourniquet lower, closer to the injury. You know what I mean? So like that
Mm.
saves more of the
Yeah.
limb. We can't teach them conversion because that's too advanced. And interestingly enough, the TCCC Commission had given permission to teach replacement and conversion at the CLS level. So we do that. Technically, it's a CMC skill, but we need to be able to save as many limbs and as much of them as possible. So yeah,
I definitely. 3 days people are waiting.
or more. I'm telling you,
With tourniquets attached.
I think the record for one guy was 20 days. I have to ask my friends. My friends always know how long, but like his arm was still attached and but I don't know if they were able to save the arm, but you can last a long time with a tourniquet on your
Yeah.
arm. What we're more concerned about too, not even just like prolonged tourniquet times, is just not knowing when to put on a tourniquet or putting on a tourniquet unnecessarily. So we emphasize really hard when we're teaching the infantry how to recognize signs of massive bleeding. And yes, to do something if you're, better safe than sorry is part of the TCCC doctrine, but as long as they know replacement, then at the very least, they can make it so that they're not losing so much of their limb. For at the like infantry level 1 level. So CLS should know enough to do a conversion if they can.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
The
So,
the one longest evac time, wait time, I think was like 2 weeks. And this guy, the only reason why his injuries were not infected is because the medic had enough antibiotics and they had pill packs to take an antibiotic every day. So he didn't have any infections, no septic shock, nothing. And that was the only reason why his clothes were disintegrating on him. Like that's how long they were like waiting for. Yeah. So, but no infection. So
so you carry antibiotics as well?
you should.
Is that
Yeah, oh,
something that you're
definitely.
pushing as
So
well?
essentially, like the rundown is for everyone's IFAC, which not every brigade does this, but it should be the normal pill pack. So it's paracetamol and antibiotics. So it's gonna be levofloxacin or moxifloxacin if you can't find moxifloxacin. Sometimes you can't find it, and then meloxicam, which is the anti-inflammatory. So if they can swallow and their airway is intact, then they should take their pill pack for any break in the skin. In terms of us medics, we are absolutely carrying pain medication, antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, usually for IM, IV, also carrying anti-nauseants because those pain medications can definitely cause nausea. So like we are always every time, especially for if we're picking up and we know that they have any sort of broken skin, we're going to give them an antibiotic for sure.
Wow. Okay. So you said before the target and Kaziraks. How do you find that mentally with yourself being on a Kazirak? How do you deal with that?
Well, it's the patient first, right? So you kind of have to block it
Yeah.
out of your mind that like someone is hunting you. And that's, it's not like we've never encountered that before. Like our medevacs have been spotted by drones. We've seen them. And, you kind of just ask the universe to be like, not this time. And you just work because once you pick up your casualty, nothing else matters. Like your focus is on the patient and you just have to put your faith and your trust in the driver that they can get us out. And so I just block it out of my mind. I know the risks. I know what I signed up for. So like for me, I never question it. I am scared. If you're not scared, something's wrong. But that's one of those things like in my head, it's always like, do it scared. If you have to, do it scared. If you have to, do what you need to do, but like the patient comes first. So
Amazing. Absolutely amazing what you're doing. So, casualty wise, how many casualties a day are you Kaziraks
it
seeing?
depends on, so like in Ukraine, especially at the front line, it's never just like a one-off for an injured person because of the explosions, the FPV drones. It's always going to technically be a mass casualty event. So like you could have up to 5, 6, 7, 10 injured at a time. It just depends on if they're red, green, yellow. So like, it really widely depends. We've had as much as 6 before to pick up. And so we have usually will radio in another ambulance that's in the area that's working that can help us out. But we can pick up, it depends on which ambulance we're using. We could pick up 3, like, 2 sit-ups and 1 lie down. But it widely depends on the day and even in our stabilization point, ours was like the furthest one out. So we could see, we could go all night starting at like, 10 o'clock until 6 o'clock in the morning, or we could go a whole night without any because we were the furthest out. So like there's the field hospital that's first, then there's another one, then there's us. So like, it widely varied. So
Okay. So you mentioned before about yellow, red, and was it green? Did you
yeah.
say? Is that the triage system you're using over there
Yeah.
for mass casualty?
Yeah. So like at least for our infantry or like the area that we're in, we use red, yellow, green, and red. So red being obviously our priority critical casualties, green being light injured. Yeah.
Okay. So red, what kind of injuries are you seeing with red?
So that's going to be anybody that's hemodynamically unstable, amputation, severe TBI, any sort of airway compromise. Those are our red casualties. Obviously, massive hemorrhage. And then, yellow somewhere in the middle. Green is like our scrapes, bumps, bruises, things that like maybe like a, ligament torn or something. Um, but that's like where it kind of falls on the scale.
Okay. So when you're teaching the soldiers over
Yeah.
there, how are they taking the information in? Are they practicing it over and over again, or is it just a 1 day kind of thing, or are they with you for a while?
So it depends again. So for me, it's in my area, like so we're teaching technically for our incoming, we take 3 days to teach ASM and we focus heavily on massive bleeding. ASM is all service members level one. Um, Usually for the more advanced, if I'm teaching at the school that I teach at, which is the International Center for Tactical Medicine, TACMed group, we will do CLS in 4 to 5 days, and then CMC is 9 days. That's how much time we get. We can't, it depends on the commander. If the commander is not willing to let them go for longer times, we would love to teach classes longer. But when you're in an active war zone and it's,
Yeah.
time, there is no time. It's time is precious. So like when we teach them, we're taking away whoever their medics are for however many days. And so like, that's why I think a lot of commanders, if you start telling them double digit days, like 10, 12, 14 days, they're like, mm-mm. So 9 days has seemed to be the sweet spot for that. Um, but boy, do we make sure that they leave understanding everything. There's tests, there's a lot of information that gets repeated and we reteach it and everything. And we do tell them like these are perishable skills, especially for level one and level two, like for ASM and CLS, like we tell people constantly and we tell their squad leaders, we're like, train tactical medicine in your combat training, when you're at the range, whatever you're doing, include combat medicine training, like do simulations. It's just as important as knowing how to shoot accurately with your rifle. It's just as important as combat maneuver exercises. It's if you don't practice it, you'll forget it. And we've had that happen where like people come back, soldiers come back, they're like, we need a refresher. And they're, their first day, they're like, geez, didn't realize how much we forgot, and I'm like, yeah, if you don't repeat it. And this is why, like, even for me, when I'm teaching, I do all the reps with my students because that's free rep time for me to be able to practice my skills and get my reps in when I'm not on deployment. So like, you have to take it as seriously as possible and like keep practicing and keep working it. So like because we have such short teaching times and such short availabilities for people to take these classes, we tell them come back and let us teach you again, refresh your skills, take whatever courses that come up from any, from the certified NGOs that come in, if they're teaching courses sooner than I am, for example, or we are, then we can at least say, okay, great, we've got what we need in terms of, repeat classes and things like that.
Amazing. So equipment wise, how are Ukraine doing with equipment wise? Are they running low? Are they getting restocked quite well?
For medical
How is it?
equipment,
Yeah.
we're largely dependent on outside donations for medical equipment. That
Right,
is
okay.
something that I am constantly fundraising for. We are constantly working with NGOs to get more donations. Tourniquets are a constant shortage. We also are constantly short of hemostatic gauze, things like anything that like it has to do with major bleeding and like, tourniquets are expensive. And the problem is like we still have people trying to peddle Chinese tourniquets now, 4 years in. And I don't really understand because we've proven that they don't work and we've proven that they break. I every time I have a class and I break tourniquets, I take a photo of the pile because I want people to see like how easy it is to break those tourniquets. It's so easy to break them. That plastic bends and I think people are like, "Well, it doesn't break on the first try." But you look at the buckle and it's just hanging on for dear life, just waiting to snap. And that's what makes me nervous is like that buckle bending enough to snap if it's been on for like 6 to 7, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14 hours. Like just because it looks like it'll hold up doesn't mean that it will. Yeah.
So you said that just then you rely on quite a few charity donations. Is there anywhere that people who are watching now can give or help?
Absolutely. So there's always nonprofits that are, shipping out medical supplies. Blue Yellow USA is one. Ukraine Frontline is another. They're nonprofits. I have fundraising tools that are usually in my bios. There's something called Buy Me a Coffee. There's also something I use PayPal, and then I have an Amazon wish list. And usually it helps a lot, especially for me, because I also make IFAKs for soldiers and I send it to them, especially if they don't get them like proper ones issued. And like I'm it happens. Like good quality medical,
Yeah.
tactical medical supplies are hard to come by. And so for me, it's kind of like a personal mission to make sure that everybody that's around me has a Cat 7 tourniquet, or, just at least a good IFAK. And I'll build them wherever I'm at. Even on my last training deployment, I was building IFAKs in a tent, and it was just like, I have to get these out. These people need them. And like, it's a like I said, it's a personal mission for me to make sure that everyone that is needs one that I can get one to has a proper IFAK. So that's why
Mhm.
we have like these I have fundraising tools of my own, and then we have nonprofits that we work with. There are a lot of them that are collecting for medical supplies. It's not just us medics individually. So like your options are widely out there. You can either donate individually or you can donate to nonprofits, and I can send links for that
Yeah.
for as well.
Please do, because I'll pop them in the
No
bottom of this
problem.
video. Good stuff. See, last question. You mentioned just then with IFACs for individual soldiers. Did they get issued? Well, or they should be issued, but they don't.
They get issued, they're better now than they used to be. For a long
Okay.
time, the quality was pretty bad. But that's also because the budget constraints on the military are pretty high. And so, there's I guess it's like not corners, like it's just that they have to save somewhere, so they choose, different parts of it. And like I think there's also a massive lack of understanding in terms of like tactical medical gear and what's good quality and what isn't. And like you can't just hand out a generic looking package that has hemostatic gauze stamped on it. It's going to be hemostatic gauze. Like I've had this argument with many people. I test everything that we get. Like I've tested several, hemostatic gauzes that are just generic and they don't hold up. And I know, I get it. Like, Quick Clot's $50 a packet. Celox is like 30 or 40. It's expensive. I understand. But like, if you're giving them, and it's, Cat 7s are $30, like, and I understand people have only so much to stretch. But my argument is if it fails that person at the moment that it counts, it zeroes out anyway. And so, like, something is better than nothing argument does not hold water with tactical medical supplies. So, and oftentimes, some of the territorial defense and other ones, they don't get IFACs issued to them. I mean, we are also responsible for a lot of our own gear. I'm a very small female, so I have to, most of the time find things that fit me. It's just not something that they have. And like all branches of the military are supplied differently. There's no uniform system here. So like, we have different tiers of, quality that come through depending on each branch's budget. So that's why, like, I get asked when I get asked, I'm like, okay, and I have one format for IFACs and it's all the same and everybody gets everything down to the pill pack because that's how it should be. So
So you've got to basically buy your own
yeah,
equipment.
most of
Full
my
stop.
most of my
Wow.
med bag was purchased by myself. So, or it was donated. So I've gotten most of my supplies donated. I had a really great donor that sent us a bunch of Crike kits. We handed those out to several medics, and also pocket BVMs. Those are $70 a pop. So like we got a bunch of those donated. So those were handed out. We use a lot of expired equipment that's safe to use that's expired, that's like within a year or something. Like most of the time, most no like tubing and stuff is still safe after a year of sorry, my dog is running around, so if you hear something, that's my dog. But like most of the things that are expired are safe, like it's tubing and stuff like that. But there are moments where like you don't get to be picky, right? And so like we work really hard to make sure that everybody that's in our infantry is equipped properly. Our medics have what they need. I've purchased med bags for other people with donations. I make sure that like the medics that I train, if they don't have access to equipment, I will equip them because it's important to me that they have it because it's too hard sometimes to get some of those things. So like if I have the ability to make sure that a new medic has their bag, I'm going to do it. And also fill it if I need to do that as well. And we've handed out, like, I will, anytime I have a class, I ask them to pull out their IFACs and I look at every one of them and make sure that whatever gaps there are, they're filled. Because unfortunately, like in this war, it's not a game. And when they go out to the front, it's dangerous. And there are so many horrible injuries that can happen. And if they don't have proper medical equipment, people die unnecessarily. And that has, happened. And it could have been prevented. More lives could have been saved if people just had what they needed. And so I guess it's kind of one of those not on my watch arguments. And I will do what I can to make sure everybody's got what they need. So
Amazing. Well, we've come to the end. Thank you so much for coming
that
on
was so
with your busy
fast.
schedule.
I was like, wow, is that the end already?
No, no, it's been amazing speaking to you.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to come back on, be my guest. You're always welcome on the podcast. We can always do another one
Oh, sure thing.
if you've got
Like
more to say.
it's always great to be able to kind of like bring an outside voice on to at least, explain like the situation or like what's going on here and like how our medics function. We have in my particular infantry, we have our infantry zero line medics, then there's me who's Casevac, medevac, and stabilization point. And so like there's two different types of medical functions here. So I'm happy to talk about it. And always happy
Definitely.
to do like a med bag tour or something so you guys see what we have in our med bags. Not everybody carries the same thing, but you can at least get an idea.
That would be amazing. I'd be interested in that, to be
Cool.
honest. Where can people find your Instagram? I'll pop it in the link at the bottom, but what's the name of the
So
Instagram
it's
page?
Rima Med UA, and on it I
Okay.
mostly focus on education, but you'll see a few of my posts from the stabilization point as well. It's really just an educational tool, not just for, people who donate to us to understand what they're donating, but also for soldiers, like what should be in your IFAC or what should be in your med bag. And so the next installment of what you should carry will be what should be in your CMC or combat corpsman med bag. I'll do a whole rundown. And I'm also like really brain dead right now. So running down my own med bag was like a Herculean effort, but I will absolutely do a tour and we can go over that.
Oh, perfect. Well, I'll make sure to link your page and link all the fundraising pages as well.
No
And it's been
problem.
lovely speaking to you.
Oh, thanks so much for having
You
me. It's
stay
an
safe.
honor. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Please stay safe, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks so much.